Good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to H3 TV, where we talk about how do we navigate disruption. We all face disruptions, literal, figurative, disruptions in our business, disruptions in our life. And I just want to remind you there's always hope. And if we take care of our health, we can ultimately find some happiness. So I love to meet with you every week. So I hope you'll lean in and listen today. I hope you'll ask your questions, leave comments, tell us where you're listening from, and tell us a challenge you're facing because we'd love to pour into you and encourage you on your journey. This is H3 TV with Annie Meehan. I'm a keynote speaker, an international award-winning author, and a coach. And I love to help encourage people to find hope in the hard things in life. Today, my guest is Shannon. Hey, Shannon, welcome to the stage.
Thanks, Annie. I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
I'm so excited. So what I want to ask you first is, who are you? Where do you live? What do you do? Tell us a little bit about you.
Yep, I live in New Jersey. I am a mom of two boys. I am a career transition and business coach, and I was a former television producer before that.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. I'm trying to get on TV. Right now I'm like in the running for two TV shows. So I'm
Are you?
getting
Oh,
interviews and we'll see what happens. So
congrats. Okay,
thank
fingers crossed.
yes, thank you. Thank you. So I always like to talk about disruption because I think it means different things to different people. So just not your own, but what in general, when you think of the word disruption, comes to mind for you?
Challenge. Really just when it's that challenge, which I think can be invigorating and exciting, but you've got to get over that hump. So yeah, I think it's just like, okay, it's God put the greater power, put something in front of us that we have to get past. And yeah, can be exciting.
Can be exciting. Exactly. And I love, I'm a woman of faith. And so I'm always like, these disruptions teach us lessons, the disruptions we go after, even if we're scared, and just different challenges in our life. And the ones that come at us, what can we learn from them? How can we lean in with peace and take it as it is and not let it consume us? And how about for you personally, Shannon? Do you have a disruption that you face personally or professionally that you'd be willing to share with us today?
It's balancing it all, but I feel like that's what we all have to deal with. It's balancing the business, the work, the kids, the family, the household, the parents, all of it. But my big disruption was when I had my kids and I realized I can't do my first career anymore. That was the disruption of having to really turn inward and say, okay, this career is not fulfilling me. I can't do it anymore. What else can I do? And that was the main disruption. But I feel like it was the catalyst to all the good things that were to come. So again, just looking at that challenge and being like, all right, what's next? What can I do?
I think that's a great example. We know we have listeners that have faced that. I need to make a change. And can I? I need to, and can I? And what does it look like? And I think that can be really overwhelming. Do I start my own business? Do I stay at home with my kids? And I always remind people there's no right answer. I was lucky enough to stay home for 7 years with our three young adult children now that aren't so young adult. I told my oldest he's middle aged this week. He's like, Mom. I'm like, I'm just saying, if you're middle aged, what am I? Anyway, but when we face that, there's some unknown, especially if this is what you went to school for and this is where you believed you were going to be a producer. This is what you're doing and part of our identity, right? What we know in our identity. So how did you, when you made that decision, or at least came to that realization, even maybe before you made the actual decision, how did you stay hopeful about what your future would look like if it didn't look how you thought it would look?
It was a lot of soul searching and really turning inward, asking myself if I was happy, how was I doing? And I had to shift my mindset to say, I checked that box. I accomplished that goal.
Mm,
Check. Now what's next? And I started looking at it instead of grieving that part of me. I was
mhm.
excited about the adventures that were next. So it was a game with myself of like, okay, I did that. I'm proud of myself. Let's see what I can do next. And then diving into the skills that we all have that we might think everyone has, but no, we have something special within us that can lead us to that next act.
I love that. And I love something you said because I always, whenever I'm teaching about hope, I think the way to really discover hope is to look back, to look forward. And you did that so beautifully, is you not only looked back at what you dreamed of, but you celebrated what you accomplished, which I think sometimes we're so busy moving forward, we forget to look back, see where we were, see what we accomplished, celebrate it, and then look forward with anticipation. What does your next chapter look like? And it is a big change, especially if our identity is wrapped up in our career, and being a producer is a big deal. You hear that word and you think, oh, she's really smart. I bet she did cool things on TV and all the things, right? Like it's an interesting path to fulfill that not everybody gets to. So I love that you celebrated it. And part of hope is anticipating that. How beautiful is this going to be to have a little more balance and to be with my children at part and control my hours a little more, not be controlled by somebody else. So
Yeah.
I like that a
Yeah.
lot. How about healthy? I think that when we think of health, I used to own gyms, so I always think physical health is what people think of first, but there's emotional health, there's financial health when we're making a big change in our career, there's relational health, the dynamics changing at home with these little kids, and now what are we going to do, and what if I don't dress up and leave the house, or all those things. Career health, emotional, mental, physical, financial, 7 areas of health. Now I don't know physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, career, relational, and financial health.
Oh, yeah.
So how did you stay healthy in any or all of those areas with the big transition?
Mm. Journaling, talking to myself, just checking those check-ins that I think, especially as women, as moms, we don't check in with ourselves
Right.
enough. So I think to give yourself, even if it's 5 minutes once a day, once a week, to just say, "Are you okay? What do you need right now?" And not putting ourselves last all the time, saying, "You know what? I fed the kids, but I need a meal too, or I need a walk around the block." Yeah, I just started journaling a lot, and just looking inward and having those conversations with myself, becoming my own friend when I needed it the most.
That's beautiful, Shannon. I love that. Do you have a strategy for that? Self-care is so important, right? So sometimes I know our listeners will say, "Oh, good for you, Shannon. That's nice that you sat down and journaled." And they're going, "When did she do that? I rump out of bed and the kids are yelling, and then this." Like people feel like they don't have time. How did you make time? What was the strategy? Plus, I love you said you were your own friend and
Mhm.
you listen to yourself. I think so many people are not self-aware or insightful. I love that you said the meal, huge thing that moms skip. They're busy feeding and then cleaning and then like, oh, I didn't eat. So tell me, do you have a strategy or a system to your day that helped you carve out even 5 minutes to journal or to take care of
Well well, it was different then than now. My kids are now about to turn 10 and 13, but
yourself?
when they were young, it was those couple of minutes. My kids never napped, never napped. So I was with them constantly. It was torture back then, but it was just finding those few minutes. They are playing with Legos. They are doing this. Let me just take a deep breath, make sure I'm drinking water, taking them for that walk around the block. And whenever I could sit with a book, even if it was just a couple minutes,
Mhm.
because I know those days of having no time for yourself, you didn't shower, you didn't eat, but it's finding just a couple minutes, even if it's just sitting in the car a couple minutes too long, to do that. And now it's once they're in school, before I open the laptop, I sit, I write down my thoughts, my goals for the day, and just find those couple of minutes. But it's not always easy, and it's not every day.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks for being
Yeah.
honest with us. And Shannon, I love the big word that I'm taking away from that is it's super intentional.
Oh,
Like I
yeah.
make it happen. I'm not saying I've got extra hours. You've got a full plate, right? But you are saying it's intentional. I intentionally spend a few moments thinking, self-reflecting, and then writing. I
Mhm.
intentionally make sure I'm drinking enough water. I intentionally go for a walk. I always think all of those things, my camera's a little blurry today, all of those things are self-care and they don't take a ton of time. So that's a great reminder to our listeners to just take a moment. And the kids are playing Legos and you that extra moment in the car, you're showing us some ways that we can do it, even if our schedule on our plate is full. So I love that. Thank you.
Mhm.
And how about happiness? Where do you find humor and happiness in your life and in your work and with your kids? Where do you find that, especially when you're going through a disruption or a big change?
I think it's that communication, right? We talked about communicating with ourselves, but asking the kids in a present way, how was your day? Can we talk about it? Tell me something funny. I always try to say, what's something funny that happened when we're having dinner? Because we all need something funny to make us laugh, and kids are funny. So it's those moments. I speak with my parents every single night. We FaceTime and they get to chat with the kids. And so having that communication constantly on group chats with my best friends from college, and
Mm,
just keeping that communication, because time goes by so fast that I think we have to again be intentional about speaking with those that we love and making it known that we're thinking about them. And as you have that conversation, that's filling your cup as well and making you say, I'm on the right track, I am finding my happiness, and these are the people that I want to spend time with.
I love that. And I love the intentional questions with kids. I always say, especially as kids get older and you say, how was your day? Fine is the word. And my youngest and I joke about it to this day constantly. He goes, I go, how are you doing? He's like, fine. I'm like, Alex? He's like, I know that's not a feeling. But I like the intentional questions. Who are you kind to today? What made you laugh? What was funny about your day? Because they have an answer to that, and it helps them and it helps you hear some funny, even if they've had a hard day, to think about the funny and to have that. So that's awesome. Shannon, what would you tell to your younger self 20 years ago? What do you wish you knew 20 years ago that you know now based on life experience and being a mom and all the things? Is there any wisdom, encouragement that you would tell to our listeners that maybe aren't where you're at in their life yet?
I'd say I love the word grace. I think just give yourself grace.
Mm,
We put so much pressure on ourselves at every stage of life that realize that the path you're walking on is a path you're meant to be, and just give yourself grace if it's rocky some days, and remember your family and give them grace, and just be present at every moment, right? Because you're going to get where you want to go. Just it might take a little bit longer than you had hoped.
yeah. Enjoy the journey, right? Enjoy the
Yeah.
journey, Grace. My friend Cheryl and I always say, grace for you, grace for me. We give
Yeah.
other people grace. We need to give ourselves grace. We need to give other people grace, all family, friends, acquaintances, clients, whatever it is. That's
That's
great. Beautiful.
beautiful.
Yeah. How about this? Can you tell us a success story? I know you're a speaker and a coach. Who is someone you've worked with that you really met them at a space where life was challenging and they worked with you and you saw some great evolution and joy come into their life? Who's it
Mm,
you can share?
Great question.
Mhm.
There's so many, but the one that sticks out is I had a woman who had just turned 60 and got divorced. She
Mhm.
had grown her husband's, he was a doctor. She grew his medical practice, ran the office, and then at 60 and divorced, she said, what is in it for me? Like, what do I do now? And she had overcome cancer and had a lot of health issues. And she loved and learned to bake gluten-free, sugar-free, all the things she needed, and she enjoyed it. That was her time in the kitchen, and she wanted to build a business selling her products, her cakes. And so we worked together to scale it. And just recently, not too long ago, she told me she's selling now to local restaurants. And
Mhm.
that was, it's one thing to sell to a neighbor or a friend, but to sell to restaurants that are now selling to their customers. And I feel like she just has that glow to her because she found her thing later in life, and she's so happy. And it's yeah, so that was a very big success story, I think.
That's a beautiful success
Mhm.
story, and getting to be part of it and getting to encourage her on her journey and hold her accountable and watch her evolve and say life still has meaning. Even
Yes.
though you're divorced, even though you've gone through all these things, life still has meaning. And I think a lot of times empty nesters face that, like, wait a minute, the kids grew up and my whole life was the kids. And I was
Right.
with a woman the other day and she moved away and she's like, I cry every day for my kids. And I was like, well, how old are they? Oh, they're adults. And I was like, okay, at some point we have to evolve past our past. And
Yeah.
not that we don't love our kids or miss our kids, that's beautiful, but we are meant to give them roots and wings. They're meant to fly. And we're not intended to have a divorce necessarily, but it's part of people's story.
Yeah.
And there's more to life. And that's hard. But I love that she had you to cheer her on and encourage her, and that it evolved to restaurants
Mm.
supporting her as well. Beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful story.
Delicious stuff too. I've had them. Very, very good.
Really? Where's she located? Maybe I gotta go find her and have
She's in New Jersey. She's a local client, so she's in
ah,
Monmouth County. Yeah, so I get to try them, which is really exciting.
super nice. It's amazing what you can make gluten-free today and tastes delicious, right?
You don't even need it, and yeah, I often feel like she's fooling us when I taste it, so
Are you sure there's not gluten in here? Yeah.
I know.
So much better for my skin. For me, gluten is not my best friend. So,
Oh, yeah.
um, so what I wanted to just ask you, we've had great conversation here. I appreciate you. Is there any last minute story or lesson you want to tell our listeners when they do face disruption? Something you want to encourage them with?
Yeah, I think if you feel stuck, if you feel that disruption, to really, again, look inwards and think about what you dream of, what your goals are, even if they're wild and out there. Think about them, and give yourself a few moments to take, that time to research and see if it's a possible thing that you really can attain, and then start taking small baby steps of action to get there. So if it's the other side of a disruption or reaching a goal, you owe yourself that chance to at least try to reach that other side and find your happiness.
I love that. Find your happiness. Beautiful. Well, Shannon, I know our listeners are going to love you and they're going to love your energy and your message. What's the best place to find you and connect?
I'm on LinkedIn and I'm at Shannon Russell Career Coach on LinkedIn. I think that's the best place. I'm very active over there.
Excellent, Shannon. And thank you to our listeners. If you have questions or comments for myself or Shannon, please leave them in the comments and Shannon and I will reply to you. We want to encourage you. We want to cheer you on and keep going to find your happiness even when you walk through the hard. Thank you for being here as my guest and thank you to our listeners. Take care.
Is think about how we can support people and that it's okay to say no, but also like, I'll be your accountability partner, but all I can give you is a text every other Tuesday. I can't walk with you twice a week. My plate is full too. It is more respectful to say, I'm sorry I can't, than to say yes and set someone up to fail. Does that make sense? All right. I want you to think about health. Next time someone says, are you healthy? I want you to think about all 7 of these areas, not just my physical health, not just a number on the scale, because I never helped the thousands of clients I worked with lose weight because I didn't care about a number on a scale, but I helped clients change their habits, change their self-talk, and a side effect was weight loss. I helped them get their finances and their relationships in order. I helped them with what they said about themselves to themselves, and it changed everything. But my favorite area of your hearts is happiness. And so what I'd like you to do is think about what makes you happy. And you can write it in that heart or write it in the back. I love for you to come up with at least 10 things that make you happy, from rainbows to sunshine, from fresh baked cookies to cuddles with puppies, whatever it is that brings you happiness.